Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Spiritually Speaking. Today, I am super excited to have Aleckson back with me. She is an author and she is also a direct voice channel, and she is going to be doing some channeling for us today. So I'm super excited about that. And I'm so happy to see you again. First of all, just to see you and be able to talk to you, but thank you for coming on my show again. I appreciate you.
It's always so fun. I love getting together with people who are out there in the world sharing these things. It's so super important that, we just keep sharing, 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 sharing. Get over our own stuff and just keep sharing, 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 sharing what we know to be true that perhaps other people don't yet understand, because we're all waking up.
Yes.
And it's nice to look out there and see, oh, there's other people that are waking up as well. There's other people that are channeling. There's other people that are doing spiritual things. I'm not the odd one out like I always thought I was, because we all went through that, didn't we? Those of us who've
Yes.
been doing this for a longer time.
Yeah, and it's a weird feeling to think that you're crazy and you're all by yourself in your craziness. So, but I'm so
Yes.
happy to see that more of this is coming into the light and people are putting it on their platforms and getting the message out because I feel like it's super important, especially right now.
Mm, I was going to say yes, especially right now, but then I also felt this need to say, especially always, whenever the
That's
right now
true.
is right now.
Yeah, that's
Right?
true.
It's always important. But it's very, very exciting for me, particularly when I go on to things like Instagram and I see people doing light language and all of these things that have been hidden for so long. And that,
Yeah.
when I first came into this, I had to go and find someone to help me understand what was happening because it wasn't out there in the world. Nobody admitted that they were doing these things until you talked to them. And then they'd say, oh, actually, I had that experience or something similar. And so to have it be out there in the world for people who perhaps don't know that they can ask or start talking about it
Mhm.
because that it seems so weird to them, but it's not. It's a normal, natural part of being human in the evolving world and in the awakening that we're going through. And as you say, it is very, very important right now
Mhm. Yeah, there's
that
a
we
lot
all
of fun things
ourselves to be
happening
taking.
right now.
Indeed.
Yeah, so I know you're doing some different things now with your programs and your life. Things have like just shifted exponentially for you since I talked to you last time, which is why I wanted to have you back on because I noticed this energy has just not that it wasn't great before, but holy crap, it's like really evolved since we had our last conversation.
Yeah, well, as you know, when we last spoke, I can't even remember when that was. Was it a year? Was it five? I don't know. I know it wasn't five. That's far too long. But was it a year? I just can't kind of pinpoint it. But at the same time, I was going through I was still really stuck in my grieving, for what had been happening to me over the last year or two. And I'm just naturally evolving beyond that. I mean, it's still there, don't get me wrong. But your grief changes. And in the changing of my grief and in the timing of what's happening in the world, over the last 6 months or so, I've just started to come back into my work in a more full way. And it's changed slightly. Of course, it always does, right? We evolve as well. And what we're working with evolves as well. That's the whole point. The universe is expanding and growing itself through us and through everything else that exists in the universe. So makes total sense, right? Each and every one of us has grown, whether we know it or not.
Right. Yeah. And some people really don't realize it yet, they don't. And that's the way it's supposed to be. We're all at different places in our journey and that's exactly as it's supposed to be, which is seems kind of weird sometimes, because I would love to just like wave a magic wand and go open your eyes, sometimes just because I know how much easier it gets at that point. Not that it's always easy, that's not what I mean. But you are able to look at it from this higher place and realize all of the good things that are happening at the same time that you're going through this hard moment, so, and it
But
gets to
the
be a
real,
lot more fun.
yeah, and it'd be great. That's why there is no magic wand, because it's the coming to that recognition yourself that is the real joy,
It is.
and that is the real catalyst for change, coming to that yourself. And yeah, we people like yourself and myself and the people that we hang out with, we can share what share what we know, and no one will get it until they get it. You've got to have your own experience of this kind of thing, to I've been contemplating this lately, actually, this word faith,
Hmm.
because from the outside it would look like that I have a trust and a faith in something that doesn't exist, right?
Right.
But my thinking, what I've been pondering about that is that in actual fact, it's I had an experience of it, so how could I not have that?
Right.
So it's up to everyone to have their own experience so that they can have the trust and the faith in it. And I didn't have it until I had it. I had no faith and trust in what I was doing or what was happening to me or anything like that until I had the experience. And then, okay, yes, this is a real thing. It happened to me. We can look out and see other people doing whatever it is and say, well, that's all well and good for them, but not, that's not my experience. Well, then allow yourself to have the experience. And it really is about allowing yourself to have the experience because, you know, you said something earlier when we were talking just before we came on live, and you said something about having to trust that whatever's happening is what's meant to be happening. That's not the way you put it, but that's the way I like to say it. Whatever's happening is meant to be happening.
Hmm.
And I don't know where I was going with that, but I feel like it was an important thing to say in this moment, that we've got to trust that what's happening, not from our humans' eyes, but from our inner eyes. We've got to see that from my human perspective, man, this looks like the world is falling apart. But from our higher perspective, our inner eye, our third eye, when you look at it, you can see that, well, this is an interesting thing that we're going through in order to get where we're going, which
Yes.
is that expansion, that growth. And which is why I said to some people recently, that there will be a female president in America, but it's just not yet.
Yeah.
Because I
It's going to be
see further
interesting.
on. Yeah.
It's
Yes.
interesting. But I feel like we're kind of in that tower card or death card moment where everything is just like breaking down, and it has to. It has to. And that's a very scary thing for a lot of people, because they're like, oh no, these are the things we've grown up with and we're familiar with them, and we know what to expect from them, even though we may not necessarily like it or be comfortable with it. We know what to expect from it. So in that way, it's comfortable, but we're about to have
Yes.
monumental change across our planet. And it's,
And I like to remind everybody that I know, because I know that everybody that I know is into this law of attraction thing, is into what you focus on, you create. I like to remind everyone that we created this through our asking. It's not up to us to then judge the result that we get, but to know that this is the result we need to get where we want to go, to get to the end result, to get to that thing that we have all been asking for. We've been asking for it. So we can't then turn around and say, oh, this is wrong, because it can't be wrong. The universe does not get it wrong.
right.
We all
Yeah.
know that up here, but we don't really believe it, right? I
Right.
believe it. I have no
Oh,
doubt at all. So I
yeah.
like to remind people, you actually asked for this.
Yeah.
When COVID hit, I said, which is what we asked for when all the stuff about children being, bad things happening to children. Well, we asked for this because we need to heal our inner child. Everything is a reflection of something within you. And
Yeah,
if we're getting this, then the thing within you, you need to look at that and heal that and carry on and keep moving because you're part of the growth that's happening, even if at the moment it looks like we're going backwards.
mm,
We
yeah.
can't judge it. We have to let it play out.
That's really hard for
And that's
people to
what I say.
understand.
Yeah, and I just want to say, as a caveat, I can't say the word properly, that that's not to say that you can't go out and activate against whatever you think is going wrong. Please understand me. I'm not saying that you just become someone who sits on their yoga mat all day meditating and accepting the world as it is.
Right.
If you feel that you need to do something about it in that way, then by all means do that. That's
Absolutely.
part of it.
Yes, that is
It's a
part of
big
it.
part.
Absolutely
Mm.
it is. And it's really difficult to understand that when we ask for change and we say we want it so badly, and then things happen and then we're like, "Oh no, this isn't what I wanted at all." Well, you can't have it both ways. You can't have change and have things stay the same. And when things change, it makes us uncomfortable. It really does. It. So I know I had those experiences in my own life, just leaving bad relationships and things like that. I needed that change. I needed it, but it didn't make it easier because I was moving into a different phase of my life that I'd never been in before. I mean, when I got divorced, I'd never lived by myself in my entire life. Never. So moving into my first apartment by myself where no one was there was scary as hell for me. So, but I wanted that
Yeah.
change and I needed that change. But it took me a minute to reconcile everything and become comfortable in it.
That's right. And it's right for those situations. Everything that happens is right for everyone who it happens to,
Hmm.
right? Even I've learned so much since the death of my son, just so much, because first of all, he comes and explains things to me,
Right.
but also, I've just learned so much from it. I mean, I thought I learned from my divorce. I thought I learned from this. I thought I learned from that. But I really learned from the death of my son. I know this might sound a little weird to anyone who's listening, but it was such a blessing
Yeah. I,
because it's been such a catalyst for me and for the work that I do and for my trust in what's happening and for you know what, I can get through anything. I
yeah.
can get through anything at this point. If I can survive that, I can survive anything.
Right.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, you can probably hear the emotion in my voice. It's still very raw and it's still a horrible thing, but it's also a blessing.
Right. And it's only a horrible thing because of our human minds. We put the meaning on those things. Like he's not having any troubles right now. Your son is like, he is great right now. And just like, I've had quite a few losses myself. I haven't lost one of my children, but I've lost two of my grandchildren. And I've lost, and I say lost, but in this physical world, and both of my parents have crossed over. And that was crazy. They crossed over 14 hours apart. And like you, I get all of this guidance now from the other side. And just most recently, a few weeks ago, my friend Kat crossed over. And such a magical person. And I felt like in a way that I was cheated from having this long, amazing relationship. But now she's so happy and she's one of my guides.
And it's a continuing relationship, and I think that's really um, a really important thing that we need to be sharing with people. That it doesn't, we can sit here and say, well, when you die, you just become one with Source, and all of these sorts of things. But until we really experience that and see that it is just a change of form,
Right.
if there was such a thing, or a change of from form to non-form, it certainly helps with the human experience going through being the one left behind.
It definitely does. And don't you feel like we're, like I feel like we look at it that way so much, like we become one with source. But the way I look at it is we already are that. We just happen to be walking around on this planet in these human bodies for this experience to
Exactly.
expand ourselves even more.
I absolutely agree with you. That's how I do the work that I do, right? And the fact that I can do it in an instant is because we're one with source.
Right.
But because we've been separate for so long, we've kept ourselves separate for so long, we
Yes.
have to be reminded that in actual fact, we are one with source. That we can play it being the human, or we can play it living our lives as source. And there are people on the planet who do that. But for most of us, it's a matter of in and out.
Yeah.
In the human, really live in the human experience, and then in a moment remembering, that's right, I have that connection to source. And bringing that energy in, I can actually feel it coming in right now,
Yeah.
that heart space opening and things like that. Yeah, so it's just really just this reminder all the time that we actually can live in those more non-physical versions of ourselves these days. I mean, from my perspective, people talk about living in 5D or moving from 3D to 5D and these sorts of things. It's just multi-D for me. It's just multi-dimensional. We can be in our human form and also in all the other forms of ourselves, and we get to decide what that looks like and which which version of that self we play from in this moment in today.
Yeah.
I
That's a
don't know if
really
that makes
radical
sense.
concept for a lot of people. So it's wild. I know when I first started getting into this kind of like deeper into it, because I've always been able to see spirit my whole life, so I've always had that connection. But as I left the toxic stuff behind and stepped more fully into my spiritual self, I was like, man, what are y'all talking about? These are some crazy concepts. What do you mean that I can imagine something and it's going to appear in my reality? That's crazy. Like all I have to do is think about it. That's absolute madness. I mean, it sounds preposterous when you first start hearing about it. Like, really, y'all need to like check into the psych ward or something, you know?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I told you the last time we spoke, but the very first time, I mean, I'd known for a few months that this was going to start happening for me because I'd felt it and I'd heard it and
Yeah.
all of these sorts of things. And a few people who were going to kind of hold space for me to do it. But when it actually first started happening with this voice, and it was a very strange voice back then coming through me, I actually almost got to the point of going to a mental health care facility to make sure that I wasn't, because I'd never, unlike you, I had not been born with a gift that I saw these things. When I look back, I can see that I did have that, but it was just so shut off and so ignored. Every now and then I get a memory of something that happened when I was younger, and I think, oh my God, you know, I was totally, totally unaware of it. So when it did start happening, oh, I truly did think there was something wrong with me. And then and then I went through a phase where I thought there was something neurologically wrong with me.
Yeah.
Because, hearing voices and whatnot. But it's not like hearing voices at all. It's not like that at all. But that's how it might seem to other people. Yeah, so yeah, of course, when you first start stepping into the unseen, because you've never seen it before, it looks like some crazy fantasy someone made up for a movie screen, which of course usually is truth anyway, to some
Right.
degree. So very interesting.
Very true. So, what would you say to people who are just beginning to notice these things about themselves and thinking the same thing that you thought? Man, I maybe need to go get an evaluation. What would you say to those people right now?
Well, I think people are super lucky now with regards to that because there is things like TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and, well, let's just call it social media, right? There's so
Right,
many of them, um, which has made our world smaller, which means that we can literally go onto a screen and say, this thing is happening to me. Like I'm hearing a voice and it feels like I used to say it feels like it's inside me, but it also feels like it's outside of me. We can go and we can type in these words and all manner of things pop up and we can explore. And that's really the important thing is if something happens to you, reach out and you can do it through the internet or you can do it through the non-physical internet.
right.
Because my whole journey has been trusting what I'm learning from that version of myself and relying on what they call the law of attraction to there's a saying in the law of attraction, right, that I don't think gets enough airtime. When you ask, it is given.
Mm,
That is an absolute truth. When you ask, it is given. And when you want to have an experience of something, all you need to do is ask. All the gifts that people just, oh, I wish I could do like language. Oh, I wish I was psychic. Ask. And if it's on your path, it will be opened up within you. You don't need to go out and seek people to teach you how to do anything.
right,
You already have everything within you that you desire. And so when you ask, it is always the universe or whatever you want to call it. I don't normally call it the universe, but I know that's universal language, right? The collective consciousness uses that expression. When you ask, the answer is always yes,
hmm,
because you're the creator of your reality. And I don't think we put enough focus on when you ask, it is given
yeah,
as an absolute truth. As you experienced, we were talking earlier about the codes coming in,
yes,
and it was triggered by you seeing something that said, just ask for the codes that you want. And you experienced that,
yeah.
right?
I did. Yeah, it was amazing. And for those of you who weren't privy to our previous conversation, Anne put up a post in her social media about the 1111 portal, and she received some codes when you weren't even expecting it, right? You weren't even expecting these codes to come in.
So
Right.
I was actually doing some work for a friend that was really computer focused and phone focused. So even while I was talking to people on the phone, I would look up and I'd see a particular time on the computer in front of me, and I would start to feel these codes coming in. It happened 3 times in a row at different times, distracting, but at the same time, it's like, no, why do we need to stop everything in order to become who we are?
Right. Right. But that's what I
It's
did
you don't have
because you posted if you would like to receive the codes, just ask. That's all you have to do is ask. So I decided later in the day that I was going to meditate and ask for some codes. So that's what I did. And my meditation wasn't very long, but I closed my eyes and it was incredible. I started seeing all these symbols. And then, like I told you earlier, it was like foreign language, how it's written from top to bottom instead of side to side, like we typically write in America. And, you know, where are you again? Australia,
English.
England.
English.
See, so we write side to side, but they write up and down, and that's what it was like. It was like this whole like just row of like codes, and I could just see them going just sliding right into me. It was amazing, and I was so excited about it. But then I had this physical reaction to it. So I would love for you to talk about that too, how sometimes we can have this actual physical reaction to receiving things like this. So,
Well, I love that. And I think that is an indicator of discernment, right? An indicator of this is affecting my DNA, affecting my cells, affecting who I am. But it belongs to me.
right.
because, the very first time that I started voice channeling, actually allowing all that is to speak through me, I I had like this ripple of energy up and down my body, like, and goosebumps up and down my body, and I actually thought I was going to be sick. And so those are always indicators for me, as long as it doesn't feel like, a really purgy kind of thing. If it's just that sense of excitement, it's a real indicator that this thing that I'm in front of, this thing that's happening to me or that I'm watching, I'm just making a point here, that is for me,
Yeah.
right? Because there's a lot of stuff out there, mm, especially in the light language world, it looks like it's something, but if you don't feel it in some way, if you don't feel it hitting you in the heart, then it's not for you. It might be for someone else. If you experience something from it, then follow it. But if you don't, and that's always been the thing for me, I've always judged everything by, well, that didn't make me feel any way at all. It just made noise in my ear or whatever. So it's not for me. Move on.
Right.
Find the thing. But most of all, find the thing within yourself. Ask for what you want. Ask
Yeah. I mean,
those other versions of you in all the other dimensions.
yeah.
And then allow yourself to receive it when it starts coming in. Don't get frightened.
Right.
Just experience it, observe it, and let it happen because it's what you've been asking for since the day you were born.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, when you let that fear slide away from you, you start having so much fun with this. You start accepting it and having more and more experiences. I was listening to a guy earlier today that does a lot of out of body experiences and how that is extremely frightening for a lot of people. So they don't mess with that world. But if you can allow yourself not to be afraid and explore that, oh my gosh, what kind of adventures could you have? It's incredible.
I absolutely agree with you. And I think the thing that's really important to say here too is that my first focus was on raising my frequency, raising my energy, because when you get to a certain, I I used to do this. This is a low vibration and this is a high vibration. And they can't come together, not because they're in separate, because when this one hits this one, it gets blown to smithereens. What I'm saying there is that there's nothing to fear if you have raised your frequency as high as you can possibly raise it and continue to raise it and just, you know, be lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter, then there is nothing to fear because nothing to fear could be near you.
Right.
And I think that's really important as well. The higher your frequency, I'm not going to say vibration because that's so misused, but the higher your energy and your frequency and your level of thought, your level of consciousness, then there is nothing of a lower consciousness or a lower thought that can get in. You have to give that permission.
That's
And you
right.
do that by dropping your energy to their energy. Whereas I learned to live in my highest energy at all times. I have never, from the moment this started, even though I'd never had an experience with spiritual stuff before, I never had a moment of fear. No
Yeah.
matter how many psychics and mediums and spiritual people told me that I should be doing this and that to protect myself, I never had a moment of fear with this work because
And
I know that I am the creator of my reality. And even if I feel a dark energy coming, I just ignore it and it's not there anymore.
right.
Right?
Right. Yeah. So I was going to ask you something and now it's gone. It's so gone. Oh, that's so funny. Apparently, I wasn't supposed to ask you that question.
But that's what happens, right, in these sort of conversations. And I do it
Mhm.
all the time. I'll start off on a rant about something and then I'll be like, don't know why I said that.
It's just the information that's supposed to come out. It's absolutely amazing. And I love it. I love it. And you start to begin to trust it more and more, even though it doesn't make sense. Sometimes you think, well, where'd that come from? What does that mean? I've never even said that before in my life. But being able to trust it, and then figure it out. It like shows you why it came into being or came out of your mouth or whatever the case may be.
You will always eventually understand it. And if you practice it enough and be in trust enough, you will understand it within moments, if not in the moment of it happening, which is where I now I know what's happening when it's happening, and sometimes I even know why it's happening for the future. And I don't always share those sorts of things because that's just for me, right? But it's really you do with more practice, like anything. With more practice, you get better and better and better. It becomes more natural. And instead of waiting 6 months to figure out why something happened, you understand in a moment or a few moments or a moment of contemplation a day later or whatever, all of a sudden you know why it happened. You can see why it is for your highest.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
So
think
of
that's
course that
one of
allows
the things
you
that's really difficult for us humans sometimes is realizing that these things that make us uncomfortable are for our highest and best good.
they only make us uncomfortable because we think something about them
Right.
or we're judging them in some way. So that's about raising your frequency is about being in non-judgment, being in acceptance, understanding that the universe doesn't get it wrong, meaning you don't get it wrong
Right.
without any ego in that, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, we do love to bring ego into it. And we love to bring our logical minds, which to me is just kind of a facet of the ego. The logical mind likes
Yeah.
to explain it away. And so, for those people who are having a more difficult time with their egoic or logical mind accepting some of this information, what would you say to them?
You know, I I really would probably just say to them, walk away at this point if you can't accept it, but play with it. Play with it in your mind.
Yeah.
What if? What if it were true? I wonder what sort of experience I could have if that were true.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just ask for an experience to show me.
Yeah.
Because when you ask it is
That's
right.
right.
If you do ask for an experience, please understand that it might be something that makes you feel uncomfortable because we only get, as you said right at the beginning, and as is being experienced in the world right now, particularly in your country, everything has to break down before it can be rebuilt in the vision that we see for it.
Right.
And that goes for you as well, right? If you want more from what you're living, then you have to break down what you've been living and what you're choosing to live today in order to build yourself into the being that lives the life that you want to live.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's an amazing thing. Like I know I look over my own personal journey into that and being able to step fully into yourself and realize that you are creating all of this and not judging it and not being fearful of it and all of the things. It is absolutely beautiful. I'm so excited for where my life is headed in the next like even 6 months, you know. I'm like so excited about it.
No, and it should be because, there is some amazing stuff happening on this planet right now. We have, as all that is said to me, so early days of me with it, all that is, they took me into the future world and showed me the world in peace. And they told me when, but I didn't even write it down or something. But it's a long way off, right? I'm now, and I have been for probably 2 years now, they've been telling me that it's shifted, it's coming closer, 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 it's coming quicker.
Mm,
And we're really in that now, we've been in it for so long, but we're really in it now. I did say the other day that you know I call it the tipping point. And yes, we've been talking about the tipping point from human consciousness to multidimensional consciousness for for a couple of decades at least. And saying we're in it, we're in it, we're in it. Yes, we are in it, but now we're really in it.
Yeah.
Right? We've been building up to it, and now we're in the breakdown, the real breakdown, not the breakdown that's kind of been trying to get in, but the actual real breakdown within ourselves and the world, because one is a reflection of the other.
Yeah.
And so everyone is going through what we're going through collectively. And so, yeah, you should be excited. Get excited. Even if it feels yucky, get excited because it's your excitement that will create the change in what you're going to receive.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there's changes afoot. I mean, it's been amazing. The last couple weeks has been so much fun to just like I've reconnected with my inner child and she's creating like a just an amazing little creator, magical little mystical being just and it's so much fun. I'm
Oh,
having so much fun with it. So I'm so excited to see where it all goes, not with just me, but with some of the people in my life too, because I know that there's a lot of this incredible energy just it just feels so expansive to me right now.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, so yummy, isn't it?
It is well, I know we're
Yeah.
on a little bit of a time constraint, so I would love for you to bring in all that is, which is who you channel. And I did write down a few questions, which we talked about prior is really weird for me to do because I don't typically do this. So would you like me to start with a question or would you just like to start with a message first?
Yeah, all that is, all that was, and all that ever will be. And it is such a delight to be with you once again. We will remind you every time we connect with you that you are the physical manifestation of all that is. You are the version of all that is that has limbs and a physical body in order to experience that and to desire more so that you create expansion within the entire field of all that is.
Yeah, that's amazing.
We are delighted to answer your questions and eager to find out what they are.
My first question is about the acceleration of the timeline, which Anne mentioned previously, but I do feel like it's almost quantum shifting. I would love for you to speak to us on that.
Well, you could experience it as that, and she likes to think that that's what has happened. There is this quantum shift, but in fact, you've been shifting a little at a time. But you have truly come to a time now where the shift is going to continue. There's no going back now, in other words. While you were doing those little ones, there was turning back, but now there is no turning back. It is on its roll down the hill, so to speak. Yes?
That's very
And that's why it
exciting.
feels like a human being, a quantum experience that is happening. Of course it is, but it's always been a quantum experience. And there were, uh, we'll use the hill analogy again. You were walking up the hill, and there was still the potential to either fall backwards and roll down like Jack and Jill, or to continue moving up, you see. But now you've reached that point where you can start going down, and now the only way is forward. You cannot fall back up the hill, in other words.
Wow, nice. And is this something, this shift something we will see in our lifetime? Because I know previously people have said no, it's going to be, but I feel like it may be.
Well, we think the feeling that you're feeling is that it will be in your lifetime, in this lifetime, within your own self.
Mhm.
You will find peace within, in other words. And when each and every one of you find peace within, in generations to come, there will be that world peace. You see, it will start with one place and then another and then another and then another. But more importantly, it will start with one being. Many of you are already there or at least practicing getting there every day. And so each and every one of you becoming that within yourself will then be reflected into the world, as the world is also doing this one country at a time.
Yes. Beautiful. Beautiful. And my next question is about the magic that I have felt swirling about. Other people have mentioned it. Magic seems to be the word. Would you elaborate on why it feels so strongly right now?
Yes, well, we've already answered that question, you see. You're at the top of the hill, and the downward is the magic, so to speak. This is where you become who you roll down the hill, and you magically become your multi-dimensional self, your peaceful self, your non-judgmental self, or we could encapsulate it in one word, your unconditional self.
I love that. I love that. Okay. Thank you for
Indeed,
that.
if there were only one word that we ever used, we would say unconditional, unconditionality. We would say unconditional love, but you all have so many things about what that means.
Right.
So we will take the love off and we will say just pure and simple unconditionality, no conditions on anything
Yeah.
or anyone.
And I have my next question is maybe it's related. It didn't seem like it was related when I wrote it down, but I just found out today that there have been crop circles that have not been reported in the mainstream media. I haven't heard anything about them, but they were actually made this year. So I'd love for you to talk about that and what messages those may be bringing to us right now.
Well, we had a discussion, so to speak, with this one earlier today, just as she was waking, because she is loath to speak about off-planet beings, you see. And um, we reminded her of the thing that we said to her right at the very beginning of our coming together with her. And it was this: whatever you believe is true. Whatever you believe is true. And through your belief that something is true, you create it into reality. You are a creator being. We've been telling you this forever through other ways of telling you and through this way. You are the creator of your reality. Whatever you believe is true in your reality. And so there are those of you who would love for this to be true. And so you create the evidence of it being true in this subject and many others. You understand? In other words, what we're saying to you at the top of it is that you are the physical manifestation of all that is, and you get to create yourself in whatever image you desire. And you are creating yourself as a being who comes to the planet and creates images for you to see and to remember who you really are. It is always about remembering who you really are.
Yeah. So that's the message in the symbols, just simply to remember who we truly are.
Yeah, light language, so to speak, you
Mm,
see. In other words, what you call light language is the language of all the other races, all the other versions of you in other ways of being, all the other languages that you speak, all the other things that you be in other dimensions. And so you could consider it to be a version of a light language. Some people will draw their light language, others sing, others sign. There are so many ways to do this. In every piece of art that is drawn, there is magic within it. There is language within it to touch the soul of the being looking at it, if they are the being that needs to be looking at it. And so the symbols written into these circles are the same magic.
wow.
In other words, if we were to tell you what to do with them, we would say to you to gaze at them, to gaze at them, to open your third eye and look further into them.
Mm,
In other words, come out of your human self and into your higher self and ask what it means for you. We want you to understand this. You are the creator of your reality. You are the only one that exists. And if you are leaving messages for yourself, there is a version of you that knows what the message means. Yes?
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that so much. Oh my gosh. Thank you for that. That is beautiful. And is there
Not
any,
what you expect, because there is so much talk about ETs and beings coming to this planet to visit you and all of these sorts of things, but we truly want to take you beyond that now into understanding that they're only coming to visit you to remind you of who you are and you are them, so to speak.
yes. Wow. That's amazing. And do you have any last words for us? Any last messages before we bring Anne back?
Well, we think we've said everything we need to say. We have shared with you here today something that you have never heard before with regards to who you truly are and who everything else and everyone else on planet and off planet is a reflection or a projection from within your own self.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We are done.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. That was amazing. Hmm. Oh, welcome back, Anne. That was incredible. So, are you able to remember the messages that come through, or do you just have to go back and look at them later to see what they are?
I often say, because I'm in the habit of saying, oh, I don't remember. But do you know, there's a really interesting thing that's been happening to me probably for about the last 4 or 5 years, in that I keep saying that I don't remember, but I do because it's inside me.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? And when I hear a message from someone else, I already know it. Do you know what I mean? Because I've already had that experience because I am that person, so to speak. It's just kind of, it does your head in. But what I'm saying here is that, yes, I've always said, because at the beginning, I went into a trance-like state, and so I didn't know what I was saying.
Mhm.
I had a general feeling about it or whatever, but I'd listen to the recordings so that I could get the message as well. But I don't feel that I need to do that anymore. I do remember what we said because it's just knowledge that's in me now.
Gotcha.
Because as I like to say, they were talking just then about beings off planet, wherever, blah, blah, blah. I try to live my day allowing all of my aspects to be present. So that knowledge is inside me. Because it comes from those versions of ourselves that know, you know, they often say to me, and part of their teachings is that you are the physical manifestation of all that is, and all that is leaves nothing out.
Hmm.
And a long time ago, they explained to me that that means that every single bit of knowledge that has been known or will be known is already in the field of all that is.
Right.
And all we need to do is ask, because it's always given, and receive. And so I played with that one day a couple of years ago, and there was this course that I wanted to do, and I just didn't have the cash for it because, some things are so overpriced, it's ridiculous. Hopefully the world is going to change that slightly as well. Um, and I believe it will. But some things are just, particularly in Australia, we've got to pay extra for everything if we're buying something from the US because of the exchange rate. It really puts you off. And I really wanted this course, and I had the page open to buy it for like three days, and every day I'd go and I'd read through it and want it more and more and more. And one day I thought, oh, this is knowledge that's in the field. This is knowledge that's in the field of, when I say the field of all that is, I'm talking about the field of oneness and the field of infinite potential. It's all the same thing. The
Right.
Akashic field, essentially.
Yeah.
And so I thought, that's interesting. I'm the physical manifestation of all that is. If I can stretch myself up vibrationally into the field, I should be able to receive this information. I closed that sales page down. About 3 weeks later, I found myself doing the very thing that I thought I needed to learn.
That's
I don't
amazing.
even remember what it was, but that really taught me that, wow, this is actually true. You've just got to get out of your own way. You've got to stop doubting yourself. You've got to stop thinking that someone out there knows something more than you do. No, they're a reflection of you that knows what you want to know. So just receive it. Allow yourself to receive it.
Yeah. Wow, that's powerful. I love that. I've actually heard Dr. Greg Braden talk about something similar to that, where and there was a something with the chimpanzees on one island, and they were using tools, and then once that information was in the field, then chimpanzees on another
Yeah.
island.
Washing the bananas in the sea to get sand off them or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that story. And I love Greg Braden, but at the same time I can't sit and focus on there's certain teachings that I can't sit and focus on because I'm all about KISS, keeping it simple and spiritual. For me, I'm all about having my own experience. And then
Right.
when I listen to people talk about quantum stuff and da da da, I'm like, I know that. I've experienced something around that. So I don't
Yeah.
need to, but I mean, brilliant, brilliant. Him and Joe Dispenza, just brilliant. And what they bring into the world. Absolutely amazing. But again, we all know this stuff, right? It's who we are. If they know it, then we know it.
Right.
But we just haven't allowed us to know that we know it.
Wow. I'm going to be doing some of that in my meditations now. I'm learning some more stuff.
I would absolutely love for you to share any experiences with me because, to have someone else then, because I tell people that story from time to time. I keep a lot of my things to just private clients and things like that. Because it's so unbelievable, right? But if someone else has a similar experience going into the field, and I'm sure other people have, they probably just don't describe it the way that I do. But yeah, knowing that if it's in the field, you can ask to receive the knowledge, and you can, uh, and this is the hard part, allow yourself to receive the knowledge.
Yeah. Allowing
But to
yourself
do
to
that,
receive
you've got
it.
to feel got to heal all those parts of you that think you're not enough or that you shouldn't be allowed to or that you can't or that you whatever it is, right? And by the way, I have my moments. I'm still a human being.
Right.
I have those moments of being human and doubting myself and so it's just a matter of getting beyond that. And all you need is to get beyond it for a moment of time and allow yourself to receive what you're asking for.
Hmm.
That's the law of attraction, is it not?
Yeah.
Ask, it is given, and then allow yourself to receive it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't say ask only for that which you think you are worthy, or ask only for that which you think of. It just says ask, and it is given.
Yeah. Yeah. So be careful what you ask for, right? Make sure it's the good stuff.
Yeah, no, no, but again, we go back to when you say that, my immediate thought is no, 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 don't say that. Don't say be careful what you ask for, because that puts people in a place where they won't ask for what they want.
Well, that's true. That
Because,
is true.
because as we've just said, when you ask for what you want, something's going to have to break down.
Hmm.
So don't
Yeah.
be careful what you ask for. Ask for what you want and then be willing to accept what happens.
Right. Yeah. Wow. I feel like we said that earlier. So we've kind of come full circle with that. That's amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I'm so
Beautiful.
excited. You only have a few minutes left. Is there anything that you would like to share with us before we close it out for today?
You know, just having this conversation has it just feels so beautiful to me. My heart is just like wide open. It just feels like love.
Yeah.
having this conversation. And I think, this tipping point, this top of the hill, this all of this, and I call it unconditionality, but it's love. It's love without any conditions. And if there were anything that I would say to anyone is that I love you unconditionally. And you're worthy of being loved unconditionally, not as a person, not as a personality, but as a being.
Right.
And you've got unconditional love within you to give to others. Wouldn't you change the world if you simply decided that that's how you were going to be in the world?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go be.
Yeah. Go be that. Go be love. That's amazing. What a beautiful message that is to close out on. And if people would love to work with you, where will they find you?
So they could always go to my website, which is aleckson.com, which is my name. And they can also go and find my book, which is called Mind Your Own Vibration, which talks about all of these things that we've talked about, and takes you through some healing work as well. But other than that, I am a Facebook person. It's where I check my connections with everyone. It's where I have conversations with people. And so definitely on Facebook, and come and join my free membership. So if you go to my Facebook, you will find info on my free membership. Lots of stuff there. And there's a paid version as well where we get together every week and have these conversations and do healing work and channeling. And that's coming up today, actually. So
Up in just
I'm
a few
excited
minutes.
about that. I'm going to be
Me too.
flying out of here this afternoon.
Well, thank you so much, Anne. I appreciate you so much. And it was so great seeing you and talking to you again. I love this very much. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for
That's
joining us today on another episode of Spiritually Speaking. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can get this kind of information out to more and more people. Thank you so much. I love you all, and we will see you on the next one.